Chapter 6 The King's Search for Lancelot. In time, Guinevere's wrath had cooled, and she wanted Lancelot back at the court. She asked 3 trusted knights who championed Lancelot to search for him. These knights were Sir Bors, Sir Ector, and Sir Lionel. After a few months of searching, Bors, Ector, and Lionel met Sir Melion, who was on his way to Camelot. The knights asked Melion to tell King Arthur that they failed to find Lancelot. Arthur was disappointed by the news. He had been sure that Lancelot would come back because of his devotion to the court. Many other knights agreed to join the search, including Arthur's nephew, Gawain, and brothers Aglovale and Percival. Their father was King Pellinore, and Sir Tor was their half-brother. The knights rode off in pairs and had many dangerous adventures during their search. Sir Percival, in particular, proved to be a fierce knight and overcame many wicked opponents. One day he met a knight whose spear and helmet were broken. Even though his weapons were damaged, the knight challenged Percival and they began to joust. Percival was thrown from his horse, but would not give up. He motioned for the other knight to dismount and fight on the ground. Hours later, the 2 knights were still battling. Marveling at his opponent's strength, Percival raised his hand to speak. "What great knight is this?" he asked, for he was amazed at the knight's great strength. Percival was more amazed when he discovered that it was Sir Ector, who had ridden out with him to seek Lancelot. They were both seriously wounded. Each felt that he would die. Together they prayed and were given a vision of the Holy Grail. Fainted though it was, Percival could see the Grail Maiden in the misty vision. He and Ector healed of their wounds. Overjoyed, they left to continue their search for Lancelot. Lancelot's trail was hard to find. The once great knight was a half-starved wild man. In his state, he arrived once again at the city of Corban. He did not recognize it as the place where he had met King Pelles and Elaine. The townspeople were afraid of him, and the children taunted him. He continued walking until he came to the castle. Servants there gave him some food and straw to sleep on. Lancelot put the straw by the castle gate and made it his home. At the time, King Pelles was preparing to knight his nephew Castor. The young man was in a jovial mood, and he was now about to be given his heart's desire, knighthood. While he dressed, he thought he had more than enough clothing and should disperse some of it to those in need. He gave Lancelot a scarlet robe, which transformed the beggar into a gentleman. Wearing his new gown, Lancelot wandered back outside the castle. His outward appearance had changed, but he still felt and acted like a wounded beast. His pain pursued him like a relentless enemy. Exhausted, he lay down by a well to sleep. Here's Lancelot laying down. Elaine and her maids were enjoying the fine weather in the garden. One of the maids recognized Lancelot and pointed him out to her mistress. Elaine rose and went to see her father. He had Lancelot carried to the tower in which the Grail was kept. At the king's command, a monk unveiled the Grail. Instantly, Lancelot was healed of his wounds. His mind became peaceful, but because of his trespasses, he had not been granted a vision of the Grail's mysteries. Now that Lancelot's mind was restored, the shame that he had brought on King Arthur and his court horrified him. Lancelot told King Pelles that he could not return there. Lancelot asked King Pelles for a castle in which he could live out the rest of his days. The king agreed to Lancelot's request. Along with many knights and servants, the king rode with Lancelot, Elaine, and their son Galahad to the castle of Bilent, which was built on an island. When Lancelot saw the beautiful lake surrounding the castle, he called his new home Joyous Island. Lancelot tried to adjust to his new life, which was quiet and peaceful, but he longed for knightly adventures. When he heard that a tournament was to be held at a castle close by, he felt that nothing could keep him away. He sent a servant to the castle to announce that the knight who lives in shame welcomed all challengers. If any knight could defeat Lancelot, the victor would be rewarded with a beautiful maiden and a falcon. The tournament drew 500 knights, but none could beat Lancelot, and none was killed in battle. Victor and vanquished rejoiced when the jousting was done. Lancelot was so happy that he held a feast in honor of his opponents. As chance or fate would have it, Sir Percival and Sir Ector, who were still searching for Lancelot, arrived at the shore of the lake. Seeing the castle, they wanted to cross the lake and ask if any there had seen Lancelot. Since there had no way to cross the lake, they remained on the shore until a maiden appeared on the opposite side. "Dear lady, who lives in that castle?" Percival asked. The maiden told him about the knight who lived there and his strange history. She advised them to walk along the shore, and soon they would come to a boat. In it, they could travel to the island and meet the knight. Percival wanted to joust with the knight, so he asked Ector to remain on the shore and wait until he was finished. It would not be fair, he said, to challenge the knight of the island with another knight by his side. Then Percival walked until he found the boat, rowed to the island, and went to the castle. "I wish to joust with the knight who lives here," Percival said to the porter. The porter went off to relate Percival's challenge to his master, and returned with a company of fine gentlemen and ladies from Lancelot's court. Soon Lancelot rode into the open and met Percival's challenge. After more than 2 hours of fighting, both knights were wounded and had very little strength left. Percival raised his head and asked, "Most worthy king, will you tell me your name?" "I am the knight who lives in shame," Lancelot replied. "Which worthy knight have I jousted with this day?" "Percival, son of Pellinore and knight of noble King Arthur's court," Percival said. When Lancelot heard this, he hung his head and said, "I am Sir Lancelot, son of King Ban, formerly a knight of King Arthur's court." The two knights embraced, and Sir Ector was brought to the island. Percival and Ector begged Lancelot to return to the court. So many years had passed, and Lancelot still felt that his shame deprived him a place at King Arthur's court. Percival assured him that the king and queen had spared no expense in searching for Lancelot. They had forgiven him. They only wanted their best knight to return to their service. Lancelot's heart mended when he heard those words. Elaine knew that nothing she could do would keep Lancelot on Joyous Island. She loved him and wanted him to be happy, so she let him go. She asked that Lancelot honor her wish that Galahad, who now was 15 years old, be knighted when Pentecost arrived.